Hi, Catherine here from Circle Art Designs. Today is Project 1 from the February Bargain Bead Box. Today we will be making an art glass necklace with a dragonfly pendant. We will be using the 6x4mm crystal faceted rice beads in teal AB. I really love the way these beads sparkle. Next, I have pulled the 2.5 by 1.5mm crystal rondelles in the rainbow iris, but I don't use these. It ended up being too small for the wire I was using. But I left them in the show and tell because they're worth a second look at that sparkle. I also am using the 8.5 by 4mm crystal drop beads in the jet rainbow iris. I think these are stunning. Wait till you see them up against that green. Amazing. For my own stash, I'm going to be using 4mm bicone crystals. I'm choosing the green. And now for my own stash, my cobalt blue art glass lampwork beads. These are about 10 to 12mm. And I've had them for a long time. I just love them. And to complete this dragon work necklace, I have a dragon pendant that I hand painted and beaded, and I love it. It too has been waiting for a project. The tools I will be using are my looper. You can make your own loops, but I like to use the looper. You will need chain nose pliers, wire cutters, your needle nose pliers, and your curved nose pliers. Because of the gold in my artwork beads and in my pendant, I will be using gold wire, and this will be a gold necklace. So you'll need 20 gauge copper. I'm using copper gold tone wire. You might say, but I don't have that pendant and I don't have those cobalt blue. Well, the point is to learn the techniques and look around in your stash. I know you've been collecting for a long time. And see what you can put together to make this beautiful necklace. Okay, and I was wrong about the wire I used. It is a resistant brass in the gold tone, and it is 20 gauge. I'm using artistic wire. Cut you a fairly long piece of wire, about 5 inches. You can get 2 components probably out of that. And we're going to make a loop on one end. If you haven't used a looper before, you will put the wire through the little hole in the top. You can see it right there. And then you're going to lay your wire in the trough area, and then you'll just squeeze down and it'll make your loop and cut the wire. Then using your needle nose or round nose pliers, you're going to tighten that loop up to make sure it touches the wire on the other side, making a complete circle. And there you have it, a completed circle. Now don't worry if it takes you a little bit to get this circle going the right way. You're going to have lots of practice with this necklace. We're going to start with the art glass components. You'll need a total of 5. You're going to put on one of your bicones. I'm using the green. And then you're going to put on a little daisy spacer or whatever spacer you would like. And then your art glass, another spacer, and your bicone. Isn't that pretty? And now it's time for our looper. You're going to run again your wire through the little bitty hole. You're going to go across that looper till your bead touches the base of the looper. And when you've done that, you've snugged your beads up. You can mash the handle. It will cut the wire and make your loop. And these are the daisy spacers I am using. I picked these up off of Amazon. So let's make one more together. We're going to take our wire again, put it through the looper, and make our first looped end. Make sure you close it. And now again, we're going to start with a bicone, then we'll put on our daisy spacer, then our art glass bead, our daisy spacer, a bicone, and then we're ready to make our next loop. Remember when you make the second loop to get the wire through the little hole and then snug up your beads up against the looper so that there's no extra wire on the bottom, and press them together. It'll cut the wire and make your loop. And now we want to do it 3 more times. See you in a minute. You should have completed a total of 5 of these art glass components.
Their power and authority was based on a belief system.
For our next components, we are going to use the rice beads and the crystal drop beads in Jet Rainbow Iris. For spacers on this one, I am going to use a 3mm gold round spacer balls. Go ahead and take your wire and make your loop so we can begin the components. This component will start with a gold spacer ball, then a green rice bead, a gold spacer ball, your jet bead, a gold spacer ball, and another rice bead, and then a gold spacer ball. Please like and leave a comment if you haven't already. It really helps my channel. It helps me get before other people. That YouTube algorithm, I've never learned how it works yet, but I really do appreciate everything you do. Now, isn't that lovely? It does remind me of dragonfly wings. I just love these beads together. And now we're going to continue doing our loops by putting the wire through the little hole, crossing over the looper, snugging up the beads against the other side, mashing down, and making our loop. And don't forget to close the loop. On these components also, it's very important that you lay this down on your mat and make sure you've got your wire straight so that the component looks straight when you put it on your necklace. This necklace will have a 3-sided art glass and a 2-sided art glass, making it asymmetrical. I'm lining it up here to see how I like it. We are starting the next component. We'll do it the same way. You will need a total of 5 of these. So go ahead and make all 5 at once. You'll thank me in the end. So just to review, we've made our circle. We're going to put on a gold spacer ball. We're going to put on our green rice bead. Then we're going to put on our crystal drop beads in the rainbow iris. Oh, you know what? We have to have that gold spacer bead between there. Then the iris, then another gold spacer bead, and then a green rice bead, ending with another gold spacer bead, and make your loop. Close it up, and that's your second component done. And it should look like this. I will meet you on the other side. Make 5 more. I am using a gold chain from Hobby Lobby. Any chain that you have will work. And I'm laying this out on my board. If you have a necklace beading board, it makes it easier to lay this out because then you can just lay your chain down and cut it the length you want it because you've already spaced and measured everything on the board. Now it's just a matter of joining this together with your jump rings. I will be using oval jump rings. I am using the littlest jump ring when I am joining chain to chain. And then when I'm doing these larger beads, I will use a medium-sized jump ring, again in the oval. From here on out, it's just a matter of joining your pieces together and following the pattern you have laid on your bead board. If you don't have a bead board, you're going to need to decide how much chain you need for each section and go ahead and cut that. Measure it against a ruler and clip it where however long you want it to be. But again, it's much easier if you have a bead board. So as you can see, I'm just joining my components as I move around the board. But look at the little piece in the center at 0. I'm using a bail to put this on, and I put an inch worth of chain in this bail for it to swing on, and I used crystal glass peridots to keep the bail from sliding all over the necklace. This inch ends up being way too big, and I have to take it off later and use a little less than a half an inch. Now I want to mention something here. When I put this necklace together, all together, and looked at it, I realized I had made a grave error. I had made it unbalanced. It's one thing to be asymmetrical, but you need your pieces to be balanced. That's why I had you make 5 of the second component instead of the original 3, because we're going to add those components on the other side where there are beads. And you'll see what I mean. I filmed it, so you'll see what I mean a little later. So I'm starting the next side. I will need to put chain between my peridot bead and the first bead of the other side. Now, when I do this, this is where I made the error. So I'm going to go ahead and put the pieces, the components I have together, and then I'm going to move in the part where I corrected my error. That's a hard word for me to say. When I lay this out on the board after it's been put together, you'll notice that there are pieces where chain is, where there's only a bead on the opposite side. This makes it unbalanced and it makes it hang improperly. So I'm going to take the chain off and add the second component everywhere it has a bead on the other side across from it. In the end, you will have 5 art beads and 5 of your rice bead components. So when you line this up on your board, for the left side, you're going to put an art bead, then a rice bead component, an art bead, a rice bead component, and an art bead. Then on the right side, you will put a rice bead component, an art bead, a rice bead component, an art bead, and a rice bead component. This will give you 3 rice bead components on one side and 2 rice bead components on the other. I hope that helps and saves you having to take it apart and put it back together. So go ahead and make the beaded chain portion of the necklace on both sides, making the changes I had talked about so you are balanced even though you're asymmetrical. And I will meet you back here for the next step. Now the next step is going to be before I corrected, but it will show you how to measure the chain and put it on. So depending on the length you want, that will depend on how much chain you're going to use. I'm looking for a 26-inch necklace. So I have put it on my board and it shows me if I lay that chain down in there where to cut. So here I am laying my chain down. How much chain you use really depends on what size you want your necklace, but I'm using about 2 inches here. I wish I had remembered before I cut my chain. But you lay it down, measure it, eyeball where that is, holding it carefully, snip it with your wire cutters. Now when I am putting the chain on, especially in this center part, I'm using a very small oval jump ring because I want it to be about the same size or as close as I can get to the chain itself. So putting your necklace on the board, go ahead and measure all your chain and connect your pieces with the chain you've cut. And I'll see you on the other side. This is getting really long. I'm going to have to hurry. If you're not using a bell, make sure that you slip on your pendant before you close and start up the next side in that center. Otherwise, you won't be able to get your bell on. Okay, here I'm putting on my bell. And I should have known that that was going to be too long right there, but I didn't. So I leave mistakes and all. I save the portion that goes behind the neck for last when I'm doing this kind of necklace. I will measure one more time to make sure it's going to be the length I want. And then I will cut the chain and add it and put on a lobster claw clasp at the end. You know, the beautiful thing about making jewelry is that there is almost nothing you can't fix unless it's soldered. But once you get a necklace, don't be afraid to take it apart and rework it and admit, hey, I messed up the first time. Let's fix this. Okay, let's go on. Boy, that lobster claw is giving me trouble. I put pictures in at the very back. It shows you where I shortened between the two peridot crystals, and it shows you also what the necklace should look like when you have all the components on it. Well, as this piece is finishing up, I just wanted to take a moment and tell you thank you so much for joining me on this beading adventure today. I hope you have a great day beading. God bless all. See you in the next video. Catherine, Circle Art Designs.